welcome to the All Things Good podcast. I am your coach and your host, Giovanna Sorello. Before we get into today's topic, I want to make some brief announcements. If you are a business and you are looking to sponsor the podcast, hit the link tree. Cash App is in there. Also, I will be creating a form to go ahead and have a consistent flow of vendors or business owners who is looking to support. Last but not least, please go follow Bereavement. Bereavement, I interviewed him last episode, and it almost brought me to tears. I didn't show it in the actual podcast in the episode, but as I was discussing with him, like how I wanted to support him, I was almost in tears because what he is doing and the movement that he has for men to bring forth healing, to bring forth reconciliation to themselves, it's amazing. To me, it's amazing, it's beautiful, because it's not just men, it's little boys as well. So if you are not following Bereavement, if you have not sewn into his mission, his vision, he had a fundraiser. It might have ended by the time you listen to this podcast, but guess what? His mission hasn't ended. So let's go ahead and sew into that, sew into transformation, sew into the change and the goodness that he is doing within his community. So who are we talking to today? I'm sure you want to know. I want to know. I want to know what she has to say, because the topic of today is called Healing the Inner Child. Her name is Shanice Ariel. She is a New York native that is now living in Florida. She is dedicated to helping people get in tune with their intuition, access their divine inner power, and infuse their sacred into their everyday life. She's a poet, a shadow worker, and an inner child guide. She's also the founder of Open Mic Renegades. If you have not been to one of her open mics, definitely attend. It's amazing. I love her vision. I love what she's doing. Her mission is to empower purpose-driven individuals to fully embrace their potential by unlocking wisdom, nurturing their inner child, and releasing blockages and challenges. Help me today by welcoming Shanice Ariel. Welcome, Shanice. How are you today?
I'm doing good. How are you? Thank you for having me.
I'm great. Thank you for coming on. I'm excited to get into today's topic, to discover and unravel what this inner child actually looks like. So,
Yes.
what is inner child healing? Like, what exactly is that? And
So-
what led you, before we get into that, what led you to actually getting into the discovery of inner child healing and becoming a counselor and doing all these things that you're doing?
Well, it started when I was young. So I'm gonna tell you a little bit about my lore. So I have been through a lot of traumatic experiences in my journey in life. And it took me in my 20s to start doing a lot of my healing. I'm 33 now. And so it's been about a 10-year journey. And then the last 5 years, I started, researching and studying and learning and understanding what inner child is. And I've understood that it comes from the deep within. And who is our inner child, inner teen, inner adult, young adult, things like that. And I started doing workshops with my dear friend Nia Mora. Shout out to her. She's awesome. And we started doing workshops in New York City in Harlem. And it was beautiful, and a lot of people came by, and it was in a park. We just kind of brought it all together. And then I decided to move to Florida in 2022. So I've been here since then, and I brought it into many spaces, and we came together, and it was beautiful. But dealing with your inner child or healing is a nonstop journey. It's like we'll always take care of our inner child. It's literally what it is, inner child, like your inner self, and listening to who that person was. Like I would say, like, who was little Shanice? Who was like, what did she need at the time, and why didn't I pay attention to her? And is she suppressed? So for some people, it comes by because of traumatic experiences, and sometimes for others, it's because they just don't even realize that they have an inner child. And then there's like a force. Sometimes life puts us in situations where you're like, wait a minute, I have to deal with a lot of shadow work. And that shadow work comes from my inner child. Was things avoidant? Was things fight or flight? Was things like I had to just be a people pleaser? Where did all these characteristics come from? And what is the mask that I'm playing right now in my life? Is it subconscious or unconscious? And how can I align it and open it up for myself to be stronger or to be aware of what's going on? So I think a lot of the time we have our inner child that's saying, hey, we need to like pay attention to this. This is why we've become, like, for instance, avoidant. This is why we become frozen or stagnant or stuck in our creativity or stuck in like just doing A to Z and thinking that's what life is, when you have an inner creativity that's like, hey, I'm meant to be a painter. I'm meant to be a poet. I'm meant to be doing a podcast. I'm meant to heal people, like, but I am stagnant because I'm not paying attention to my inner self. So that's pretty much a broad summary.
Okay, so would inner child be like kind of when you go through the process of actually healing or like going through that journey? Because it's always a journey.
Right.
Does the inner child merge with your current self, or is it something where the inner child is always there? Because I know there's a thing called dissociation. Is that where the
Mhm.
dissociation comes from?
A lot of the time, actually, it comes from like a lot of the detached emotions. Sometimes we get very numb and we suppress, and disassociation comes with that too, because you're like, well, I'm just living life. I'm just trying to be like, just do what I need to do, and it's survival too. So with
Right.
survival comes with dissociation, and we don't have no understanding. When we get into our inner child and listen to our inner child, we're opening up, like, just basically like a phoenix in a rising. Like, you're opening up all that muck and that energy and like letting it spill out. Well, of course, it's not easy. Easier said than done. And healing steps take time, and it's ever healing. So we're unlearning, relearning, and learning again. So it's like taking all that muck out and looking at it, and then just like letting yourself feel, really immerse in that inner child, play, honesty, authentic energy, because when you start opening it up, it feels heavy, like with any healing that you do. And especially if you had any traumatic experiences, or, things that had to do involve with your parents, had to involve with your caretakers, had to involve with like even like relationships with platonic, romantic, and all above. It kind of comes into play, and you're like, wait a minute, it's because I never got that affirmation or reassurance or empathy or love or compassion to be my best self. So I think that when you start doing the inner child healing, it does bring up a lot of heaviness, but at the same time, it is a nice clarity at the end. When you realize, like, oh, I just needed to pay attention to them, whoever, like that inner child person of me. So a lot of people have, it could go either way. Some people have a really hard time accepting it. Some people shut them out so heavy that they don't even know what their inner child looks like. Some people are open and just like, oh my gosh, I love my inner child. I love you. I care for you. I want to be there for you. And some are like, this is too much. I'm going to close back. So it's an ever growing process.
Right. Ah, there's so much to discuss on that, but
I know, layers, layers.
no, it's not. It's amazing. And I myself have been through that journey and not even knowing what it looked like. And now there's a word for it, which is inner child healing. I think like for me, I feel like this word or this, type of healing has just came about. Maybe it was before, but it's becoming more prominent within social media, within, therapy and coaching sessions. So to me, it's beautiful and it's definitely necessary. But how
Yeah.
does oh, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just saying yes. I was agreeing. I was like, yes.
So how does one determine that they actually need inner child healing? Like what are some signs? What are some indicators that say, you know what, I think there's some trauma I need to go through, or maybe there's some healing that I need to process?
That is such a good question. And a lot of people, like, when they see us advertising like inner child healing, they always look at me like, what is that? Like, what does that mean? Is it just like we're gonna color or something? And I was like, why are we making fun of coloring, first of all? Coloring is a beautiful activity. It de-stresses you. But no, it's like I feel that a lot of people, when they tell me like, oh, what's inner child? Like, can we all do it? Like all genders? And I was like, of course. Like, this is not just sitting around and playing with Barbies. I mean, we can play with Barbies if you want, but it is fun at the end of the day. It's kind of like kind of creating a domino effect. When you
Mhm.
create that inner child play or those inner child activities, they make you think, and it kind of gives you like a decompression over the traumatic parts of it. So
Mhm.
while in the inner child circle, we talk, we do journal prompts, we meditate, and then we allow everyone to have an open space to talk, right? And a lot of people have a lot of heaviness. Like for me, I'm always going to share my story with my clients or the circle, because if I wasn't doing this, I'm doing this for a reason, to give back. So I want people to understand that they are here to be in a space that is sacred. I know there's no such thing as a safe space, but we'll try to aim to create the safety for you.
Right.
And when we open up that space, it's just more or less allowing yourself to just really sit and reflect, like, oh, this is what inner child looks like. This is what little Shanice needed or little Giovanna needed. What are we needed in that moment? And what are we
Mhm.
reflecting? Like sometimes in those moments when we go through the meditation, it could be your 2-year-old self, or it can be your, like, 6-year old self, or it could be your 10-year-old self. Or even sometimes I get a lot of like teens. So lately I've been working with a lot of inner teen lately. I feel like a lot of people have been working with their inner child now. It's like the intensity of preteen and teen energy, where that rage, where rage comes from, and anger, that emotion is so huge, and it comes from loss, or it comes from sadness, and then it creates rage, and then it creates like a detachment, where we come from
Right.
dissociation as well. And then people are like, wait a minute, I have so much to say, I have, why did I block my own throat chakra, or why did I block my own voice as a teenager when I had so much to say and I was just angry? So,
Mhm.
and then there's pressure, and then thinking like hormones, and then we go into many different levels of each part. But when people come to me, it's more or less like they see it and then they get interested. They don't really think about it in the moment. They're just like, they ponder upon it, and then they show up. So I
Mhm.
never know what's gonna happen in the inner child. I just prepare for everything. But
Right.
I feel like a lot of questions have been coming up with like young adults, like 20-year-olds, and like from the ages of 17 to 27, and that's also like Saturn return, and also like evolution time. That's been very interested in inner child, which I think is beautiful, because you would think it would be like from like late 20 to like older and elder, like 60, 70, which I have had in that age range as well. There's more older adults like in the ages of like 40 to 70 that's shown up to circles too. And I love that, because that's a whole generation that is not used to, like, maybe possibly our generation. Like I have to think about, like, really do research about their generation, because it was it was harsher. Like
Mhm.
during that time, there was no like emotion. So I've had people who come in and they say certain things like, well, if you like had any emotion or question anything, like it would totally be cut off, which is
Wow.
normal. Like I grew up in a West Indian culture, so that's normal. But at the same time, there is points where they're when they explain that they are not allowed to talk about anything, and they have so many siblings, and siblings don't talk about, and nobody talks about anything. It's just a whole like thawing out
Right.
energy.
Wow.
Yeah. So I just more or less like just listen to them and give them the space, because they weren't listened to. So that's a lot of the energy, is just more or less that it's like a listening session, because they were never heard.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, so would that be an indicator, like not having you able to speak up in certain situations? What are some like indicators where people can say, like, I might need some inner child healing, like not being able to speak up, maybe not being able to
Mhm.
set boundaries? Can you give us some examples of what that looks like?
Yeah, definitely. The two that you said, not being able to set boundaries, not being able to speak up, not being in traumatic situations where it consists of like child toxic trauma within siblings, adults, like, you know, SA, grape, and all of that stuff. So that comes along. There is a lot of self-harming.
Mhm.
There is a lot of like mental health issues, like dissociation, detachment, um, wanting to come out creatively, just being stuck, stagnant, feeling like your whole world is like went on fire, and then you're like, oh wait, how did I get into this crisis? Where do I need to find some outlook. So sometimes a lot of people meet their breaking point, and that's when they show up. So we continue to keep trying to align and give the simple things so people say, hey, like, oh, I got to think about this. Like, the only part about healing is to help people be more self-aware and to think. Like, that's really important. It's just like open up your mind to think. And then when they come into healing, it's like, I didn't even know any of this existed.
Mm.
And I find that so alarming to me and alerting, because it's like, you're how I'm an emotional being, so I have to take myself back. So I'm like, how do we not have emotions? Because for me, it's like my emotions were never heard because I'm sensitive, you know? And like I'm a highly intuitive, sensitive person. So mine was like, snap out of it. You can't cry. You can't do this. You have to numb it out. So like these other people are already numb. How do we open up those like energies? And then it's a lot of like releasing. It's a lot of anger. It's just a lot of releasing, a lot of crying that happens. It's not easy work. It's just work that if you're willing to put in, you know, nothing comes easy, and you just can't say, I can't. You can't.
Right. And
Yeah.
I think I want to say this, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I feel like inner child healing looks different for everyone.
Oh, yeah.
You don't necessarily have to have been through a like abuse or anything.
100%.
Sometimes it's like financial. Sometimes there's is that correct?
Oh,
Because
I should have brought that up. Yes, thank you for bringing that up. Yeah, financial blockage, generational blockage, cleaning your bloodline, ancestral, inner child energy. We're repeating the same patterns, the same mistakes. And we have to break those things for our family members and like for our children or for our generation. Just having to
right.
just like say, hey, we got to change this up. We got to be more disciplined. We got to be more structured. Why are we a little bit too chaotic too? Yeah.
Mm.
Like for me,
Oh,
it's like, why is it chaos, you know? And I'm just like, I look at my inner child, there was a lot of chaos, so I have to bring peace. Peace is like everything, you know?
right,
Yeah.
right. Okay, so that makes sense. So cycles, we're looking at cycles. If there are any
Mhm.
cycles in your life, whether it be, emotional, whether it be financial, whether it be whatever, mental, those are your indicators. Those are your marks to say, maybe I need to go through some inner child healing so that you can break the cycles. Because that's what we're called to do ultimately. Like we're supposed to set new cycles, healthy cycles for our kids, for ourselves, and for the generations that are to come.
Oh, yeah, exactly. And if you find yourself thinking about inner child, like after watching this, or, thinking about just to the audience, like if you're just thinking, hey, like I feel like there's something that is missing. Sometimes it feels like something's missing, like you need a little extra love. Or why can't I have love in my life, or self-love? That's also an indicator too. Because self-love is really important, and where we needed it most was at when we were kids, you know? And if you didn't have that, or you didn't have enough of it, or you were like cut away from certain things, and you were told like, no, you can't be emotional, or no, you can't go for your dreams, or you have to make more money and not
Mm.
be creative. Those are indicators too. So it could be the opposite of like trying to be financially stable, or because you only were financially stable and having to survive and didn't come back to creativity. It's so much layers to inner child, and so many things that people don't even realize, like in their day to day, how much they don't take care of their inner child. Sometimes you just have to sit with yourself and just be like, what does little Shanice need at this time? What does she need
Right.
right now? Does she need do I need to hug myself? Do I need to just go into nature? Do I need to go by the water? Do I need to draw? Do I need to color? Do I need to have a piece of candy or like take myself on an ice cream date or something? Or, sometimes it can be it could be very tiny. It doesn't have to be extreme either.
Right. That's good. I like that you mentioned that. And you also mentioned something is like you does our inner child have a voice?
Mhm.
So what would it say? Tell our listeners what it would say. Like, and then I want to share my story. How to listen to that inner child.
So it does take time to listen to like your inner child voice. Um, that's why we work like the inner child circle is to open it up and to take those lessons that you learn from the inner child circle to take it to your everyday life. And I give you like a booklet to use and to do journal prompts and to do meditations and to do affirmations. But what I would recommend if somebody's watching this and you're like, I'm not in Florida, I can't do an inner child workshop, I need to do something virtual. I'm available virtual. But I also, if you want to just do this on your own and you want to figure it all out, I would just say sit with yourself and just like either sit crisscross applesauce, like a little child on the ground and just close your eyes and just imagine your inner child, whatever age that may look like, whatever pops out, and let that inner child kind of come to you and talk to you. And if she's or they he all gender if they come to you and say, I need you to listen to me at our 8-year-old self.
Mm.
We had so much change in that moment and we didn't speak upon our needs. Let's can we do something to speak upon our needs now? Sometimes it's almost as if you're envisioning yourself like sitting on like a comfortable place. Let your mind go to a space that feels like home to you or what your inner child liked. Let's say it was on a couch and watching TV or playing video games or, having your little hut and just hiding underneath a blanket and just reading a book with a flashlight. I don't know. It could be anything. And then go back to that child and like just observe your child. Like observe yourself and just say, hey, like just welcome, like introduce yourself again. This is older me. It almost it sounds like a fantasy and it sounds like a dream, but it's a meditation, guided meditation that I use for our clients to kind of see what needs to be done or what needs to be said in that moment, something that triggers or opens up, and what we do with that trigger. Now, a lot of the time it can be triggering, so we have to push through the trigger and understand why it's happening before reacting. And sometimes, like, I'll give you an example. So we'll go into the meditation, and let's say I close my eyes and I go in through the meditation, and then 5-year-old Shanice comes and we're chilling reading a book. We're always reading a book. So she looks at me and then she's like, we just need to like get out of here. And I'm like, okay, girl, where are we going? And it's like the beach, I guess. And like she always wants to go to the beach. She always wants to escape to the beach. She always wants to be by the water. And I'm from New York City, so I grew up in Queens. So the beach Rockaway, that's what I know in my entire life, Harvard Beach and all that energy. So I would just when I lived out there and I was doing that work, we would spend a lot of time at the beach playing with the sand, being a kid, and just enjoying it. And I'd feel very different. That's in the beginning before I started like doing this for others. For myself, of course, you have to do the work first before you do for others. But I'm always taking care of my inner child because she be popping up a lot.
She popping up a lot. I understand. Trust me. And even with me, like I find myself, there's still times that I'm just like, okay, I thought we were done with this, but apparently we're not.
Literally, yes. I'm like, I thought we were done with this, but something happens. And when you have kids, they kind of shadow that. Like they kind of not shadow. They were well that yeah, they can shadow, but they kind of reflect. And then they're like, oh, this is the inner child moment. I need to like pay attention to. And I've noticed that like with family and like people I've raised tons of kids, and I have a bonus son. So like when there's certain things that happen, I'm just like, whoa. Okay, yeah, let's relax for a little bit. Let's take a walk. Let's go to the park and let's go on the swings. That's another one. Swings for me. Oof, I love swings.
Really?
Yeah.
That's interesting. So for me, well, before I get into the story, so it sounds like imagination is
Yes.
a big, for some reason, I've been here, like, been just getting into the importance of imagination. And I feel like as kids, when we have this wild imagination, sometimes it gets shattered or maybe hindered, right? And then that is where could that be where the actual well not all, but could that be where that inner child begins to break off and now is disassociating because of what I imagine. Let's say if I imagine me, I was always wanting to be a star. I wanted to be a singer.
You are a star.
Always dancing to commercials, and and no one really affirmed it. No one really put me in dance class or anything like that. So the creative side of me kind of shut down.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Right. So imagination, I feel like is a big thing. What do you think about that?
Oh yeah. Imagination. Like if you want to think about Peter Pan,
Mm,
like the Peter Pan syndrome, like not growing up, not wanting to grow up because it's too much responsibility. So I run away and just want to be a kid forever. Or,
right.
but then a lot of people want to be a kid and they just can't. They just grow and they're just like, oh, wait, I had so much aspirations and like like I had so much ambition. I wanted to have passion. Where did it all go? And then we find it. Sometimes we never find it. Sometimes we find it too late or never do. But I don't think it's ever too late to be a singer. You can join and get some classes, but some
Right.
people think that, oh, it's too late. I can't do that. And you can. It's just allowing yourself to break free. And
Yeah.
that's the horror. It's hard, but
Yeah.
it's so freeing. We got to find solutions, not problems all the time. And I think we are programmed to find more problems than solutions, and the solutions looks harder than the problems because we're used to chaos.
Right.
So I think it's peace is hard for a lot of people to come by, especially with, society and the pushing of like capitalism and things like that. I could go
Mhm.
on forever about how it just tries to suppress that creativity. And when it's just, it can be very simple if we try. It could be very tiny. Just going to a park and just looking, even, I mean, it's weird to look at like yourself going down a slide as a maybe 40-year-old or 30
Yes,
year old.
absolutely.
I still do it too. But I'm just saying this is for like the other listeners
Hmm.
that are just like, oh, they sound crazy. But take a moment, go on a swing, go on a slide, or, go into the sand or pick some flowers.
Right.
Blow the dandelion, right?
Mm.
Like those little things, or play a board game. You could start very simple.
Right.
Go to our arcade and play the pinball machines, or, Super Mario or something like that,
Right.
That's what I've been like, because I have a 10-year-old. He's about to be 10-year-old, and he brings our inner child with like arcade and gaming. And I'm playing Nintendo, like playing it all over again and playing Mario Kart. And I'm just like, see, I didn't think I needed this, but I did.
Right. Right. Yes, and I want listeners to hear, like to listen, the child, when you start to address your inner child, it's really about like having that childlike faith again, where you
Yeah.
believe that all things were possible, where you believe that, everything was going to be okay, where you just trusted the unknown. I think a lot of times we get so caught up in wanting to, control things and just, have things a specific way, but just being free
Oh
and
yeah.
allowing ourselves to enjoy the moment. Like my thing was always so I was like the last couple of years, I'm like, I want a horse. I want to go to a horse. I want to go to a horse ranch. I want to learn how to ride a horse. It's always been horses, horses, horses. And at that time I had a friend and they were like, were you a kid?
Yes.
And I was like, and they were like, at that time I felt guilty because I wanted to have fun. And
Yeah.
I'm like, because okay, so you don't know me too well, but I've shared on my podcast that I was in ministry for about 10 years.
Yes.
And so everything was like, we gotta do the work, gotta work, 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 work. And we gotta, save souls, we gotta do teachings, we gotta do all this, right?
I know that life too. I understand that life. Yeah.
So when at one point I'm just like, I wanna have freaking fun. Been in Florida for almost 10 years now.
Um,
Like, what have we done to have fun?
oh
And when
yeah.
I stated that, it was like, oh, well, you're not taking this serious. And I'm just like, what? So, anyways, no longer connected to that person. And now I'm just like, you know what? I want to have fun. Like, I need
As you
to,
should.
we should be able to enjoy life because we don't know that it's actually healing that inner child. And then that's where I feel like confidence comes from there. What do you think about that? Like, does our confidence come from this healed inner child? What are the consequences of not healing your inner child?
It's so much because, people go through so much different, like self-esteem, self-worth, self-care, self-love, confidence, like you said, like once you're struck down, Like, for instance, I don't know the history behind that whole relationship that you just spoke about. And I understand the ministry and like the spirit inside of you is also needs to be heard. And that is also part of your inner child work. And a lot of people will say certain things about it, but honestly, if you don't take a part, like if you feel like you need to go horseback riding, then go do it, because we live in, well, I live in Polk County, so I'm sure there's ranches somewhere. And Florida is humongous. There is a horseback
Right.
ranch somewhere. And we're gonna go together. If you don't go, we're gonna go together. We're gonna do
Down.
this. So when you said that, I thought about automatically my niece. I was so into horses too, because I think it was like Lisa Frank or something. It could have been like during that time with the Babysitters Club or something. And horses were everywhere at a point in the 90s. I don't know. I felt like, and I always wanted to like be near a horse too. And my niece is so into horses and birds. And then for her birthday, she said, Auntie, I want to go horseback riding. And I was like, okay, girl, we out there. I'm gonna find a way. We're gonna find a way. We're gonna do that for you.
Right.
Like whatever you need, because aunties always do the thing. But yes, going back to what we were saying, confidence. When we grow up and somebody takes away our confidence or takes away our like our energy, because unfortunately sometimes the people that love us the most can take away the best parts of ourselves too.
Right.
And we could have been a little too confident, and then all of a sudden they said, well, no, why are you acting like that? And then they tone it down, they take away that confidence, right? And then we have to find our way back to be ambitious and confident again and loving to ourselves, to be like, oh yeah, I can own it. I can own this room. I'm fierce. I'm passionate. Doesn't matter what you say. Like, I know what I'm doing and I'm going to do it the proper way. And it's okay that I show out and show up. And you know how people, like, when you go into, let's give an example, when you walk into the room and you give that energy, main character energy, if you want to say, and then you go in and then everybody's like looking at you like, oh, why does she think she's a hot shot or whatever like that? Well, that's because you're in the clear of your own energy and they are reflecting their projection off of you. And that's something that has to do with their inner child too, because
Okay.
something told them, hey, you can't be like that. You can't be the spotlight. You can't be that way. Or people that are like that are a certain way, which
Right.
is not the case. You're just being a fierce person and being a wild spirit and a fierce, knowing your energy, loving your energy is uncomfortable to people because a
Yeah.
lot of people don't know what that looks like. And that stems from inner child too.
Wow. Wow. That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. Everybody
Wow.
needs inner child work, to be honest.
Yes, yes. I mean, going back to my story, just for our listeners to hear like what it kind of looks like. So okay, I'm gonna be vulnerable and I'm not gonna cry. So my father wasn't really in my life. So there was a lot of abandonment issues.
I
And throughout the
understand.
course of my life, I kept seeing that. I kept seeing like people leaving me. And I'm like, why is everyone like always leaving me? Like, this is crazy. Like, am I not good enough? Right.
Right.
And then finally, one year, I did do some inner healing with a ministry. And then a little bit after that, went through a loss, well, not a loss, a breakup of like, I just disconnected from the ministry. I disconnected from the people. I disconnected from pretty much everyone. And I was by myself. It was my
That's
decision. It wasn't anyone else's decision. It was my decision. But even then, it was just like I kept seeing little me.
hmm.
And it was like she was alone. And I was like, so I was laying in bed and I'm like, what do I do? Right. And I just heard affirm her. And so
Yes.
I started telling little me, I said, it's okay, you're not alone. Like, you are loved. You're this. Like, and I was like, and it took me about 30 minutes and I cried in my bed. I'm crying and I'm seeing all of it. I'm seeing like her just being held, like, and that was another, like I said, I thought it was done because I had went through some healing process already, but then she
Right.
showed up again. And I was like,
Mm.
okay, so gotta affirm her. Then, not too long ago, been really stepping out. I shared with you briefly, stepping out in my creativity. When it comes to
Right.
podcasting coaching, like I can do this. But when it comes to my creativity, for some reason, it's just like I'm always scared. And so I had to tell her. I said, I looked in the mirror and I said, I'm gonna show you. Because they used to call me Nana.
Mm.
I don't go by that anymore. I go by Giovanna. But I said, listen, Nana, and I looked in the mirror. I said, I'm gonna show you that everything that you wanted is possible. I'm gonna show you that everything they said you couldn't do, you can do. And I cried. I mean, I'm talking about I cried in the mirror. And I was just like, but it was a form like I felt like I had to do that.
You did. Yeah. I'm so proud of you. And that was so like like it's just like heart affirming and like grounding of that energy because I understand that completely too. I was so blocked creatively too. So I'm happy like I know because we I'm you came to the open mic and you brought your energy and you brought your art and I was so proud of you because I was like this woman, she's so talented. What? So talented. And she has a podcast. She's a life coach. Like she can do it all. And it's empowering women and empowering people and empowering yourself. And you empowered your inner child in that moment. And I find that a lot of the time with inner child, our creativity is very much blocked because
Mhm.
also, if you think about in schools, we were creative at one point. I guess I could talk for the 90s kids because for the 2000 and above, creativity was getting shortened and it was taken over by technology. But then we found creativity through technology and creative like spaces for online communities like what we're doing right now. But I feel like there's always something with a pen and a paper and
Mhm.
with paint and with just taking your time being slow and resting and restoring your energy and cleansing your energy is a part of because kids go like really fast, they're running and everything, they're on like monkey bars, they're running around, running around, running around, but then they're never like tunnel vision. They're always having moving around and, oh, I got to do this, I got to do that. And that's where like probably where our scattered brains came from because we never got to just be in our creativity and just allow it to open up new energy or open up peace or open up stand like grounding energy, like just standing your ground and just saying, oh well, I can understand this and this. Emotional regulation is what I'm looking for. Yes, like co-regulating yourself. How do you do that? A lot of kids are not taught how to regulate themselves, so they
Mhm.
get out of touch and then they don't know how to manage their self and they go into survival mode.
Right.
And it's just a really bad programming and pattern that we are seeing every day. And especially that I was an educator for high school and middle school. And I just see it every day. I'm like, I'll just give them a coloring sheet. I'll just be like, here, take this. And they would just be so calm and in their zen. And then they're going, Miss S, this was so relaxing. Thank you. And I was like, you're welcome. What thoughts came about? And they told me all these thoughts and all these things that they were like, I didn't realize I was feeling this way. I didn't realize I was thinking this way. And they're like 12, 13, 18 sometimes. And that's,
Wow.
it's needed. Or a journal prompt, just sitting there and just writing. And a lot of them don't write anymore. So it's just when we have to sit back and take a moment and listen to our inner selves, even when you're little, like you could be 12 and still having to think about your 6-year-old self because you didn't
Right.
want to grow up at one point. Some kid never wanted to grow up. And you have to reflect back on that. Why didn't I want to grow up? And then I had to, and then I resented it. And now I don't speak. Why? Why don't I express myself? Why am I so stuck? Why do I put on a mask? So it's just so many levels to each person that has different parts of themselves that weren't seen or heard or, just kind of like one and done and didn't realize like why am I doing that? It's because of avoidant attachment styles. So we got to go into love languages, we got to go into attachment styles, we got to go into mental health, we got to go into like physical, emotional, spiritual, especially some people with religion, and how it affected them in a positive way or a negative way.
Right.
And then they, it's just warped.
Right.
and we have to just sit back and listen to ourselves. And I'm glad that you did. And you were like, what do you need at this moment to little you?
Right.
And we're going to go do it no matter what. And just do it. Like, I'm proud of you. But I can commend you, but I want to commend the people in the audience that are saying, well, it's okay to take one little step. Even
Yes.
if it's just taking the step of something so tiny. It could be having a family like fun night, going to an
Mhm.
arcade or going to play bowling, or it can be a fun activity before we get into like the hard stuff.
Right.
It doesn't
It's
have to
also
always
like
have
the
to be
heart.
hard. Yeah. Yeah. So I kind of bring in the medium of both hard and easy, because it is hard work, but it also
Mhm.
comes with like an ease and grace to yourself. Give yourself grace. Yeah.
Awesome. And that was going to be my next question. It was going to be like, how do the people at home start? I know you mentioned a couple of things at the beginning of the interview, but she just said it. This is how you begin, by just slowing down.
Mm-hmm.
Like, oh my gosh, sometimes being an adult is hard.
It's hard.
It's so much work. And we're doing it from Monday to even Sunday. When was the last time? I want our listeners to really hear this and ask yourself this. When was the last time you slowed down? When
Oh
was the
yeah.
last time you went for a run or a swim or just said, today I'm just gonna dance? Like the other day, I danced like a white girl. I was just like, I felt great. It was amazing. But I had to like, because I knew that I was so tense. It
Mm-hmm.
was like, just loosen up, slow down, relax.
Mm.
Let that inner creativity come out so that you can soften the ground, so you can begin to prepare the ground to allow that inner healing to work. I mean,
Mm.
that's just what I think.
I no,
I'm
I
not,
think
like, I'm
yeah.
not.
We're not just survivors out here. You're 100% correct. We do need to slow down. And I think about it and think about the programming that we had is calm and relaxing is supposed to be luxurious and expensive. It's not
Mhm,
expensive. It's not expensive to just take care of your body, mind, soul, and spirit. And just think of your not even, you don't even have to think about your inner child. Just think about what you need in that moment. Is it a
mhm,
deep breath? Is it a walk? A walk, you can literally get out of your car, go to the park, and take a walk. Listen to the birds, look at the trees, look at the sky. I know we're in Florida, it's hot, but even let the sun hit you and just feel
mhm,
that sun. Um, it could be so simple. It does not have to be so hard and overthought and over processed. Like, that's what I want a lot of people and our listeners to understand, that healing is not expensive.
mhm.
Yeah.
Awesome. So to close out, Shanice, tell us about your inner child program. How can they find you? What does that look like? So that, maybe someone listening might want to subscribe or sign up. And is it virtual? Does it have to be in person?
Definitely. I just want to also say thank you to you, because having this space and platform for healers and, people all over whatever they do is just opening up the space for the collective is really important. But I do inner child sessions like tarot and oracle as well. We can sit and just do a one-on-one private session without the cards. We can do it just one-on-one, virtual, in person. And then I'm bringing back the inner child circle at Blangelica's boutique, I believe in August or September. I haven't decided yet. And then if it's gonna be in August, we'll be inside because I know it's really hot. Until it gets cooler, then we'll go outside. And then we'll have it outside. It's really nice when we do inner child circles outside. Blangelica's boutique is in Auburndale, Florida. You can find me here on Fridays, Saturdays, and Sundays from 11 to 4. And then we do monthly events like the Full Moon Circle, Tarot Social. I do readings here. We have the open mic, that also expands creativity and gives spaces for other people too. Last Saturdays at Soci Market. So there's a lot of things I do. So just keep up with me at Shop Calypso Isles, Shakti Dula Collective, or Shanice Ariel. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Shanice. Thank you for being a guest. Thank you for
Of
blessing our
course.
listeners. I hope you have a good day. And I'm sure it's going to be an amazing just episode for our listeners to really gain some insight that it doesn't have to be so difficult.
Yes, thank you so much. It's not difficult, and we're all here to open up the energy. Right.
Thank you so much, Shanice. You have a good day.
You too. Bye.